Hey everyone, welcome to the stream. Today we're going to be diving into Reaktor again, taking a look at recreating the Peekaboo sound, synth melody in Reaktor. Um, so, welcome to the live stream. I'm Danny Xander, and in this session, we're going to be recreating the synth melody from Kendrick Lamar's Peekaboo using Reaktor. So, if you've been vibing to that track and want to know how to make a sound like that, or make a sound that sounds like that, you're in the right place, because we'll be using Reaktor blocks for this, and I'll walk you through the step-by-step process on how you can follow along and enjoy the ride. So let's get started. So, I'm going to start off with our modules that we're going to need. So we're going to open up a fresh ensemble. So it's going to look something like this. We're going to file new ensemble. We're not going to save that. We're going to start from fresh so we can show you how to build this out. So our basic blocks are going to consist of a note in. Just going to grab those blocks. We're going to need a bento box note in. The next thing we're going to need is a oscillator from our bento box collection. Actually going to add two oscillators. One to create one oscillation sound, or one to create our first waveform, and the second to create the second waveform that we have, and then that we'll need. So we'll need actually one square or pulse-ish wave and one triangle wave. So we're going to add also a filter. Another component of that is the filter. Then we're gonna also need a mix so we can blend both of our oscillators together. And we're gonna need an amp so that we can have an output to an amp. And finally, we're going to need a couple more components just to replicate what we had, and that's gonna be a envelope. So I'm gonna pull in an envelope, and I'm actually gonna go ahead and remove this for a minute. And a reverb. So we got all the components to build our synth out, our modular rack. We're just going to connect it up. And that's our filter. Then we're going to connect our gate control to our VCA. And our filter out to our amp. And finally, we end off with our reverb. We're going to leave that disconnected for now so that we can manipulate that raw tone. And I'm going to get some sound to come out of this thing. So we got some sound. Actually, we're pretty close to the sound already, just by itself. I'm going to pitch this up 12 semitones. Okay, so now I'm going to add the envelope control by taking our envelope, renaming it to our amp envelope because that's what it's controlling, and then turning up our modulation depth. We're actually pretty close to the sound already just by having the waveforms correct and pitching one up 12 semitones. We can actually add a little bit of movement by adding some fine tuning control to our second oscillator, which will kind of shift the waveform off center a little bit and give us some more movement. That's the difference. A little more movement. So I'm going to add a little scope on the end so you guys can see what's happening with the sound as it evolves. So you can see the waveform there. Okay, so we can now tweak our sound. Now that we have all of the components of our modular synth, we can tweak it to however we desire and make it sound more like the track. So now that we have the basic blocks in place, they're going to focus on the sound itself. And we'll start off by setting up the oscillators to make sure they're correct. We've done that already with our saw wave right here on our right. And it's perfect for that rich full body sound that we want to hear. And then we're going to detune this oscillator like we just did right now. What should you do 5 to 10 cents? Instead, make it a little bit less drastic. And I'll just choose 10 to make it more extreme so we can hear the difference between what it gives it. A little bit of more metallic character to our sound. So we'll keep that pitch pretty low with this one at 0, and we pitch the second one up 12 tones. So this is for that main synth line in Peekaboo that goes. I'll play it in a second. So, but feel free to experiment depending on the melody you're working with. So we added that low pass filter so that we can filter out some of the high tones. We can also set the cutoff to around 500 hertz. So this one is at 1600 kilohertz. So 500 hertz would be somewhere around right here. Gives that darker sound. And I'm going to hold down shift so I can have some fine tune control. And then we're going to add a few more things. So now we got a cutoff that's low enough to keep the sound bright but not piercing. We're going to keep going with this build. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add a fast attack and a short delay. So fast attack would be this is the fastest attack. And a short decay, we want it a little shorter. So just to sound similar to the track we're going after. And so it cuts off kind of quickly. I think that's about right. You got to use your ear here and really listen to what your sound source is and what you're trying to do. I'm going to set the LFO rate. I forgot to add an LFO, so I'm going to add the LFO, which is a low frequency oscillator. And we're going to modulate the cutoff of the filter. So I'm going to put that here and modulate the cutoff of the filter. And we're going to make it so that we can modulate that. Sounds pretty cool now. It's like very aggressively moving towards open. So we're like halfway there pretty much with the sound that we're going after. It's sounding pretty exciting, getting some energy in it. And then next we're going to tweak this LFO rate to like a quarter note. So quarter note to an eighth note works best for this type of sound we're going after. And we'll modulate the filter cutoff with the LFO so that it gives it a bit more of a dynamic movement and keeps it evolving over time, so your ear doesn't get bored of it. So we'll make it a little less drastic. Add a little resonant peak. That's our first note. So we're going to add a little dynamic texture with that reverb for our final touch. We've dialed in our knobs already. We brought the mix down here. And we've set the size and the high pass and the low pass to all the way down. The thing with synths, you don't always get the same sound every time. So every time you create a sound, you're going to get a new sound from what you're tweaking. So you're never going to be able to get that exact same patch that you created the last time. So you want to make sure as you go along, you save your work, you save your patches, and anything you create, because you might not be able to create that exact same sound ever again. And that's the cool thing about oscillators and modular synthesis. It changes each time you use it. So you want to save that still sound. So now that we've gotten a foundation and a place to start, we'll take a listen to the sound, how it sounds together, and I'm gonna play the little melodic note, melodic riff from Peekaboo, and we'll listen to how the filter modulation really helps with that rhythmic delay and gives it and brings the sound to life. So we'll play a short section of the melody. Okay, so let's actually reverse this. Let's put this. So make this one 12. Bring that down. We'll dial in our oscillator a little more. Okay. Let's check those previous settings. So just fine tuning and tweaking our sound. This is the sound design part of sound design. So we got pretty close. Just a little more tweaking on the actual key tracking. Bring it up an octave. Down an octave. And there we have it. So in just a few minutes, we've tweaked, we've played around with the knobs, we've changed our settings, and we've created something that's very similar to that bright, plucky synth melody from Kendrick Lamar's Peekaboo in just a few minutes in Reaktor. And thanks for joining me on this quick session on sound design. And if you like the sound, like that sound, and want to see more live streams, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and drop any questions you may have for ideas for future tutorials or sessions in the comments below. And I'd love to hear what you're up to and what you want to learn. And I'll see you in the next stream. So before we end off, we're just going to save our sound. And reorganize our panel. Okay, so now we can mess around with it for a few minutes.